So I think what I'll do is I'm gonna video on just so you all see there's a human. Hi, I'm Eva. I can't see you, but I can see the chat. I'm a solo show here today, so I'm running the participants, making sure I let people in as they arrive, as well as I will do my best to follow along with the chat. But right now you should be seeing the screen welcoming you all to the grant panel workshop, which is if you meant to go to, you know, I don't know, Art 101, you're in the wrong spot. But if you want to learn about the WeHo Arts Grant Program, you're in the right spot. Okay, so thanks for coming, everybody, on a weekday, middle of the day. I really appreciate your time. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. So welcome. What we're going to talk about today is the Arts Grant Program specific to West Hollywood. We're going to go through each category as a broad overview. I'll offer some general grant writing tips that hopefully you could apply not only in West Hollywood, but also in other grants that you're writing. And then we'll open it up for some questions. So if you've got questions, I welcome. If you have questions throughout, you can definitely utilize the chat, raise your hand. If I don't call on you right away, I'll take some breaks as we go along and scope out who's got a hand raised, and I'll call on you that way. So as we're moving forward, just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are gathering in a virtual space, but I'm here at my pod, here in the place currently known as the City of West Hollywood, but that is in fact the unceded seas territory of the Gabrielino Tongva and the Gabrielino Quiche people. And we are gathering in this virtual space, which has its own versions and methods of colonization so that we are participating in by utilizing them. So want to make sure that we're meeting on that plane. And I already see a question. The meeting's going to be recorded. Will you get a link? I don't intend to send a link out. What I do intend to do is to edit the beginning, because I started the recording a few minutes before everyone logged on, so I'll clean that up. And there will be a link provided on the web page. So when you go to apply or you go to check out the guidelines to have more specificity, there will be a link to this recording. So I want you all to know that this is a place to ask questions. Yes, it is being recorded. However, feel free to ask your questions. If you feel a little shy, don't worry. You can write your questions down and email me or call me, and we can have a private conversation. If that's a little bit intimidating, no problem. You can also write arts@weho.org, and it will be a question to our general group, and we can also respond that way. You can leave a chat here in the chat. You can ask a question out loud if you like. If you're someone who has super specific questions and you know that you are a type of person who really wants to dig into those kinds of things, definitely we welcome that. Just want to make sure everybody's conscious of that moment to step forward and then moments to allow space for others to contribute. So making sure that we're leaving room for everybody's questions. Let's dig in. I'm going to take a quick look around here in the room, see if I can broaden this screen at all. Anybody have a question so far? What am I doing here? Am I in the right place? You are? Okay. Okay, so I want to just explain a little bit about what municipal funding is. At its most general, municipal funding is a city's mechanism to support and subsidize art making in its city that reflect the city's priorities. Now, in West Hollywood, we consider ourselves a very art forward type of city, meaning that we put a lot of resources into both art making, art presenting, art supporting, all of the things in the ecosystem. And we like to be a resource sharer in that way. There are other cities that have municipal grant programs, including Santa Monica, Pasadena, Culver City, Los Angeles, and among others. So we're not the only city to offer this. Our grants are funded through the general fund. That means that funding is secured. We have not been impacted by the federal issues in our arts division. I know organizations have been affected. I know other cities may be affected due to their budgetary constraints. Los Angeles is one of them. So here at the City of West Hollywood, the budget for arts grants is moving forward at the same level as it has been in the past 2 to 4 years. The municipal funding mechanism is directly related to the idea and the requirement that there be a service of public good. Because these are taxpayer dollars, we are limited in what we can fund. This is what makes us different from private donations and funders and philanthropists. They may have their own board regulations, but at the municipal level, we're required that there be evidence of a public good. So that's why, as in this slide here, you see that we do offer grants. However, they must be connected to a production, presentation, performance, a panel, a screening, something of that nature that is available to our public and our community. That's how we show evidence of that public good. Okay, this is me. I have a dance background, so I like to do dancey pictures around places where I go. Here's my contact information, and I can put it in the chat toward the end so that you all have it. I'll have another slide also at the end, but this is my contact information. I am the person who will liaise with any grantee, and also I facilitate this process of, guiding the grants and, ushering applicants through this process. Okay, I'm going to ask for a little participation, and you may be, on your phone and what have you, but if you don't mind, give me a little thumbs up or something if you've have ever applied for a grant before. Have you ever applied for a grant before? Okay. Great. Okay. Excellent. Okay, great. Have you ever applied for a grant from the City of West Hollywood?
No.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Welcome. Yes, so exciting. My hope and aim with our arts grant program here at the city is to be a welcoming entry mat, for what I consider to be one of the more overwhelming parts of getting funding in art, which is to apply for a grant. So welcome, you are in good hands here. I have written many a grant myself, and I recognize that's the daunting nature. Okay, so the first question that artists and applicants often ask themselves is, where will I fit in? Which category is right for me? Here I've laid it out based solely on your applicant makeup. Are you an individual artist, an artist collective, an arts nonprofit? Then here's where you might find yourself. So for nonprofit arts organizations, meaning you are not a food bank, that's a different kind of nonprofit. Now, food banks can do art making, but in this case, you must be an arts-driven mission. So that must be in your mission of your organization, is that you are an arts nonprofit. In that case, you are eligible to apply for the arts project category. That's our big ticket item, our 2-year grant. The community arts category, a 1-year grant, lower threshold, lower funding. The transgender, gender diverse, intersex grant, which is specifically speaking to and of that community. And then for artists, so if you're an individual, you are a collective, you are anything other than a nonprofit arts organization, you are eligible for the Community Arts, the Filmmakers Grant, the TGI Plus grant, and the WeHo Artist Grant. So that's the first kind of division, is if you are an arts organization and if you are an individual or a group of individuals that have not identified as that 501c3 designation. Okay? Alrighty, we're going to dive in. The arts project category is a 2-year grant with a $10,000 maximum award. That means that if you are going to apply for this grant, likely you're asking for close to $10,000. Your budget evidences that that is a responsible amount to ask for. And if you are awarded 100% of that funding, you would receive $10,000 each year, meaning that it's a $20,000 total funding for a 2-year period. The expectation is you would provide a presentation in 1 year that would be in a $10,000, have a $10,000 award. And then again, the following year, another presentation with a $10,000 associated award. So this is, again, this is our big ticket item. This is a 2-year grant with 1 application. It doesn't mean that you need to know exactly what your second year will be in terms of the presentation. They don't need to necessarily be related, although I will say that the panel might find it confusing if you're going to do a dance performance the first year and then a cooking class on the second year might be kind of weird. So keeping it kind of like, making sense is probably a good idea. But it doesn't need to be, okay, well, in the first year, I'm going to do a dance performance about women in history. And then the second year, I'm going to do like part 2 of that. That doesn't need to be the case. So the 2 presentations should be separate in terms of timing. They can be separate in terms of subject matter. And maybe they should be related, especially if it's speaking to the mission of your organization. Now, remember, this is an organization-only grant, so individuals and collectives are not applying here. You cannot apply to this application with a fiscal sponsorship, okay? And the reason why is because we're requesting California Data Arts. This is the application that really has the most requirement, again, because the price tag is high. We're expecting and hoping to fund arts organizations that have some history of presenting, have submitted things to the California Data Arts program, which is our state method of tracking audiences and metrics for our arts ecosystem. And this application, just like all of our applications, are reviewed by a panel of your peers. Now, the panel makeup is typically, well, it's broadly diverse in terms of background and demographic, but it's also people who are genre diverse. So you'll have a filmmaker, a dance, a dancer or a dance executive, someone who does visual art, someone who is working as a professor of music. So lots of different kinds of people who are going to be reviewing these applications. That said, and we'll get into this a little bit later, it's important that you recognize you're speaking to someone who may not know your genre, okay? Here are some examples of funded projects in past years, just to give you an idea. Art exhibit, that can happen at a gallery here in West Hollywood. Dance performance, you've got Mashup here in the center, they're a previous grantee. Music concert, theater performance, film presentation, a spoken word, cultural, festival. I'm thinking about Prism Comic QCon that happens here. It's a cultural festival. So lots of different things like this to get your sort of creative thoughts flowing about what you might think to do here in the city. The project must happen in the city of West Hollywood within our 5-block radius. The 5-block radius does include the LGBT Center, okay? There are a handful of theaters in our city, And as a grantee, if funded, you would be awarded 1 day use of one of our city facilities. What that means is suppose you're a theater company, you're going to do a performance on a Saturday night. Well, you might want to rehearse on Thursday and Friday. You would be responsible for paying for the rehearsal time in our spaces, but you would get that performance day for free. Our using our facilities is one of the most cost-effective ways organizations have of spending their grant funding. So just to know that that is available to you as long as space is permittable. Where people don't have a lot of luck is if they want to do a 2-week run. That's where things get challenging because our spaces are highly used and we don't have a culturally designated space. We don't have our own theater. We have spaces that we share with every other division in the city, and that includes pickleball, y'all. That includes a recreation camp. That includes all these things. World Dog Day was something I was up against recently. So lots of fun activities in the city, lots of events going on, which means parking is a consideration. Staff is a consideration, and it makes it difficult if you want to do a longer run, is basically all I'm saying there. Okay, I'm going to stop share and just put my face out here for you. Okay, so I just want to pause and check my chat for any questions about the arts project category specifically. Okay. Oh, great. So yes, you can also use the chat to share resources that you know about or that you think are great for the community to know about. Oh, so really good question. It's a 5-block radius. Okay, 5 miles gets us, halfway through Beverly Hills. So we can't we cannot make it a 5-mile radius. We're only a 2.5-mile city. Yes, Casey.
Okay, so for that one, that's only for companies or nonprofits, but or individual artists can apply for them as well.
The arts project category is only for arts nonprofits. Other categories are for individuals.
Okay.
And we'll get into those. Any other questions about the arts project category? And we can, if you think of something later, then we can talk about it too. Just want to make sure to address any questions. Oh, Jeanette. Oh, maybe you have your hand up from before. Does the arts nonprofit have to
Sorry.
be? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mute. I didn't unmute. Do you have a map of that radius?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no, super helpful. I don't have that. That's a good thing to have. I think that, I think if you have a place that you're like, what about this place? Just email me and I will run it by my higher ups to see if it's within that radius. Oh, someone put a link of streets. That's great. So it's not a map exactly. I don't know if it's helpful, but it does list the streets. But this is a great document to star if you are a resident of West Hollywood, because this is what we check your address by. Okay. And then someone asked, does the arts nonprofit have to be located in itself? So like, does the headquarters of the nonprofit need to be in West Hollywood? No, no. It does have to be in LA County. So you cannot be, New York State and apply for funding from West Hollywood. You have to be located in LA County. Okay.
I
Alrighty,
have a
we're gonna.
question.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Hi.
So when it comes to like filmmaking in a short film and you want to do the 10K, does it apply to individuals? Or let's say you can make a production company within the project, and can I ask for the grant with like,
Well, I don't necessarily, I mean, making a 501c3 is not a small thing. You
okay.
need, so I would investigate that before you apply for film. This grant is for projects to be presented. So
Mm-hmm.
that I think also like funding film in this category is challenging because the output is typically going to be a screening, but it's hard to justify a $10,000 ask for a screening.
Mm.
That's why I think the filmmakers grant that we'll talk about might be a better fit. Okay.
Oh,
So
thank
there
you.
are some questions here about what categories people qualify for. So maybe we'll continue on through the categories, and then hopefully I'll be able to answer that question as we talk about the various categories. So I'm going to go back to sharing, and we'll move on to the next category. Okay. I'm going to see if I can't keep the chat up. Okay, sorry. Okay, so great. So somebody had asked that 5 miles, the 5 blocks, the 5-block radius, but the city of West Hollywood had transitioned into online presentations through COVID. We are maintaining an online option for folks because we found that people, although I do think it's shifting kind of now, but people want that accessibility of being able to access programming from the comfort of their home, or because they are restricted in some way. So if you are an organization who has offerings in person and online, you can also apply in that way. Again, just mentioning that the city facilities are available. We have the West Hollywood Park, we have Plummer Park, we have Kings Road Park, which is a pocket park, really beautiful. We have Plummer Park Community Center, which includes Fiesta Hall, which is a performance space. I mean, I'm going to put that in some heavy quotes. It's a city performance space. So we mostly have electricity, but there's no technological anything in any of our spaces. There's no lighting, no sound, none of that. And we have the ARC, which is the aquatic center. So those are the facilities that the city has to offer. And then in terms of local venues, okay, you've got the Greenway Court Theater, you've got Zephyr on Melrose, you've got the Renberg at the LGBT Center, the Strasbourg space. Oh yes, an Actors Company also on off of Melrose. I think it's on Detroit or Formosa. So a couple of options, but listen, we're a small city, and so things are limited. What we do see grantees doing is building a partnership, let's say with a local gallery, and doing a presentation in the gallery. So that's an option. We have had folks do things in partnership with some of our storefront spaces and present there. So it's good to be creative and think creatively about where you might want to do a presentation. Okay, next category. Now for this category, you can be an arts nonprofit, you can be an individual artist, you can be fiscally sponsored. So this kind of is all the things. This is a $6,000 maximum award, and it's a 1-year grant. So this grant is really looking for artists who are speaking to the LGBTQ community, BIPOC community, centering women in their art making or art audiences, and that are able to provide a little bit of history showing that this is not just like a one-off, I need this funding to shoehorn my project, but instead that I need this funding to support what I'm doing, what I've been doing for the last year or two, and what I hope to continue to do in the city of West Hollywood. And this picture here is a picture of Plummer Park, and you have an outdoor dance performance that happened through the grant program. So here are some other sample projects for this category. A Heritage Month celebration, a justice-centered art presentation, maybe that's art making, maybe that's a panel conversation, some kind of educational or participatory workshop. So these are just some ideas, for what you might be thinking about in terms of this category. These are one-time things that this funding would go to happen in the city of West Hollywood. The transgender, gender diverse, intersex plus arts grant category is for artists who are either within this community, whose content of their artwork speaks to this community and upholds this community, or speaks to audiences in this community authentically. So eligible artists and organizations here, and again, similar to the Community Arts Grant, this is for individuals, fiscally sponsored, collectives. You can be an arts nonprofit and apply here. You do have to provide 2 work samples, and that's pretty consistent across all of the applications. We are looking for some work history as evidenced through work samples. So here are some examples of the TGI projects. Oh, the old title was the Arts Initiative, but it's long past initiated. We're fully in it. It could be some kind of multimedia performance, some dance, film, theater. Maybe you're honoring trans performers or speaking to the drag community potentially. Maybe it's something with an online archive, a photo exhibit. So here are some examples. You see some pictures across the top. Okay. The WeHo artist category is for individual artists only. So no fiscal sponsor, no collective, only an individual, and that individual must live in the city of West Hollywood, not on the other side of the street, but the West Hollywood side of the street. Okay. We do check, and then we check again, and then before the funding is delivered, we check again because people do move. And this is a grant for residents of West Hollywood through which the city invests in the individual. So that is the essence of the public good. The public good is that the individual is now an ambassador of the arts for the city of West Hollywood. Receiving this funding is a reflection of that. It's the most thing that we have, like a fellowship. The WeHo artists are required to present to the commission the ways in which they use their funding in the year. So they present that at the end of the year. So in 2026 in November, they would present to the commission and say what they use the funding for. And that's a great moment for the commission to understand what they supported, and also for the artists to be able to speak about how they grew, what they got that film equipment that they needed to do the next thing in their career, or they got the funding that they needed to do that, fashion show, or what have you. So you do need to provide 2 work samples. And this also, just like all of our other categories, is reviewed by a panel of peers. So let me just make sure. Okay, let's just close out talking about categories, and then I'll open it back up again for questions and check the chat. The Filmmakers Grant is a pilot grant. This is our first year doing this grant. It's a $10,000 maximum award, and it's a 1-year grant. This is a finishing grant. So if you are someone who's like, I want to do a film in West Hollywood, this is not the grant for you. But if you are someone who says, I have a film, I just need to finish it, this might be the grant for you. Maybe you need sound editing. Maybe you need colorizing. Maybe you need to buy the rights to some music. This is a grant that could fund those finishing elements. The requirement here is that you need to be prepared to show and do a screening of that film in 2026. So that's how close we need it to be finished, because I know that the end process of film, well, I say I know, I don't really know because I'm not a filmmaker. I imagine only filmmakers can really know that it might take a long time. So you really do need to be like 98% of the way done. And then this funding would fund that ending bit, and you would be able to have a screening in West Hollywood, and then that would be the grant. This is for individual filmmakers. So it could be that the writer is applying, could be that the director is applying. This would be for someone to be able to speak to the content of the film and provide those work samples. Some more information about eligibility in this category. Being really specific and clear about where the money is going to go will help you have a successful application in this category. Okay, so we're going to take a pause, and I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to see some hands raised. I'm going to open up my chat, make sure there's no more participants who want to come in. Okay. I'm going to go to the chat first, and then I'll go to raised hands. Okay. For the arts project grant or a cultural performance, could funding be utilized for development, but in addition, would the individuals or orgs be allowed to optionally ticket the event to cover additional costs? Would that process be in collaboration with the city? Okay, so for the arts project grant, it is not for development. It is for the presentation of the project. You are allowed to ticket for that category. So if you are a dance company and you have 12 dancers, you have your lighting designer, your, costume, your, all the things, as you all know, all the things that go, all the hands and monies that go into projects, you're asking for funding to fund the presentation. You're detailing how much people are being paid. You're detailing how much things are going to cost. And in that, there's a line for income, right? So you're balancing this budget with, okay, I'm also going to charge a $10 ticket, a $20 ticket. I think, and I'll just speak from experience, the panels generally frown upon ticketing that's expensive. So if you're thinking about that $55 ticket price, the $75 gala, whatever, that's the part that the panel feels, well, that seems like it more serves the financial mission of that organization instead of the city of West Hollywood's community audiences. So the city, through the vehicle of the panel, generally likes to fund programs that are going to be presented at free or low cost for the community. And how I like to talk about this is I don't know how other cities feel, but we don't want organizations to necessarily recreate the wheel. If you are doing a play and you're presenting it at the Pasadena Playhouse, you can apply to present that same play here in West Hollywood. You can do that local tour. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a brand new thing. It can be something you're doing and that speaks to the mission of your organization and that you're bringing to the community here in West Hollywood, and you're seeking the city's support for that. So I want to also be clear, individuals are not allowed to apply or not eligible to apply for the arts project category. And no matter what, you will, once you're a grantee, you're in this kind of collaboration with the city. Well, with me, as a representative of the city, I help you reserve your city facility. I, answer questions you might have about, about this or that. We have an orientation with grantees that hopefully answers a lot of questions there too. And so once you're a grantee, you are in some collaboration with the city. The city logo will go on your materials, and in that way, you'll hopefully feel supported. Are we allowed to charge tickets? Okay, yes. Yeah, so I think I answered that. Yes, you are allowed to charge tickets, but I would just also the caveat of keep in mind a low to free cost. Some of our applicants, they say, we're going to charge tickets. So it'll be $25 general admission and $15 for West Hollywood residents. That's one way. Some people break it out even farther. They say $25 general admission, $15 West Hollywood residents, $10 for seniors and students. Okay, so there's lots of different ways you might be able to break it out. For the Community Arts Grant, does the event have to take place within West Hollywood? Yes, it does. Does evidence of, sorry, I don't see, of prior events count as work sample? Yes, absolutely. And that evidence can be, you can submit a link, a video link. You can submit, well, that's probably the easiest way is to show that evidence. What the application does specify is that the application work samples are not eligible if they are marketing materials. So the WeHo Times article about your program is not evidence of your program. You would want to show the panel, because again, think about the audience of the application. It's going to be 7 people who have no idea who you are, no idea what kind of art you do, no idea what you've done before. So you want to cherry pick the best of the best to really showcase both what it is you're good at and feel confident in, and then give a little, maybe a closer to home sample of what they might imagine the work you're applying for will be like. What will it feel like for the audience? What can the panel expect? And having that be really clear will help give them that picture and help your application be more successful. Okay. A question about the temporary public art application. Okay, that is beyond my scope. I do not know when more information will be released. I would hope that if it's on the website that there's a staff person associated. I would probably guess it's Marcus. I would reach out to Marcus directly. Okay, hands raised. Magnolia, hi. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sure why it took
Okay.
so long to unmute, but I do have a question for you. Actually, a couple. The first one was for the filmmaking grant, do I have to live in WeHo?
No, no,
Oh.
you do not need to. You need to be in LA County, but you do not need to live in West Hollywood.
And then the second one is, this one is a bit tricky because I feel like it's one of the only categories, or possibly more, you might have to answer that my platform mostly fit in. So it's a YouTube channel where we showcase emerging artists, meaning singers through the city of LA. So since we do film it and we do curate the event and we do put it on our YouTube channel, I'm not sure what category best fits for us, the filmmaking one, but you did mention it is a post-production thing. But our turnarounds are really quick, meaning like if we film this, then this will be completely done within the next 3 weeks, and then we showcase it like in a month or a month and a half from the day that we filmed it. But we also like create and curate the space for this performance or this artist where it's more intimate and unplugged, right? So if you think about it, it's like a combination of like MTV Unplugged with tiny desk, tiny spaces, and then we showcase or we can have the events in local coffee shops or like super cool locations around the area of LA. So I was curious of which category do you think we best fit in? And we are an individual too, so.
Right. So as an individual or a group, then that sort of limits you to the community arts category, the transgender, gender diverse, intersex category. And I don't think the filmmakers category is the right fit necessarily, because it sounds like the element that seems like it would feed your mission the most is that very cool, hip, in-person event at a cool coffee shop. I don't know if you've been to the city of West Hollywood. Okay, we have about a gazillion cool coffee shops.
Yeah, you guys have plenty of them too.
And
where-
so I think that sounds like a really exciting avenue. And I guess I would ask, like, when you're looking at those two categories, there's something interesting that separates them, and that is the audience that it's speaking to. Is
Right.
there a way that you could think about I mean, I liked how you phrased it as a tiny desk with like a MTV, is there a
Unplugged.
way that could speak to a transgender, gender diverse, intersex audience? Is there a way that could happen? Or are you thinking about it in terms of a female focused program or a BIPOC focused program or an
Well,
LGBTQ focused program?
Think of it like an artist where it will all depend on the performer, right? Or the person that's performing that day or a DJ. So I think we can definitely categorize it in whatever category best fit, and we'll just need to find the correct talent for that category. I was just very curious of like where should we go towards to on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that grants, this is what makes grants so fun and tricky, is that you don't know if you get the funding, so you don't want to necessarily move forward with your programming, but you
Right.
kind of need to know what you're going to do so you know what to put in your application.
Right.
So
right.
I think being more specific is going to give you a healthier application.
Right. Okay. We'll find the artist.
I hope that's clear as mud. I know.
Yeah, it's just a bit tricky because it will all depend on the artist and the talent. And then we can, with that much money, we can definitely create not one, but multiple events based of how like sufficient the way we've been producing this. But thank you for answering my question.
Great. So happy to hear that. Okay, and then Magnolia, it looks like someone's interested in that in the chat. I'll let you respond. Justin, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a very quick one. One of the people I'm representing here, They just recently organized as an LLC. However, they do have a fiscal sponsor, a nonprofit fiscal sponsor. So I'm led to believe that that's okay for something like the community arts grant, or even perhaps the transgender one. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes, the arts project requires a nonprofit arts organization, meaning a 501(c)(3) with an arts-driven mission, and that is the only category that has that requirement. The other categories, as you correctly said, community arts and the TGI arts grant, you can be fiscally sponsored in those categories. Okay. All right. More questions might come, as we continue to chat. I'm gonna share my screen again, if I can. Oh, here we go. Okay. Alrighty, so, as I said, we are not the only municipality to offer funding, but when you're thinking about your application, whether it's to Culver City or Santa Monica, because a lot of us do ask the same kinds of questions, and a lot of us do have that same restriction of you need to do it in that specific municipality for their community. All of us, right? Whether, again, Santa Monica, whoever, we want you to focus on us. We want to be the center of your attention in the application. How will your project speak specifically to the West Hollywood community? How will it speak to our senior community, our kids, the Russian-speaking community, the LGBTQ community here in West Hollywood? And just start to think about how you might market to that community. That's going to be a question in all applications across municipalities. Who is your audience and how will you reach them to advertise your program? Make sure that you're reading through every guideline really carefully. For example, we do not fund any fundraisers. So if you're hoping to have your arts organization annual gala and get funding for it, that would need to be a separate program. We're not saying don't have your gala. We're saying we can't fund it. We can fund some other program. Make sure that you read everything really carefully and take your time. What I often recommend is for folks to go into the application itself, to highlight the questions and put them into a Word document. Write out your answers, send that to a friend, by the way, who maybe has no idea what you do, okay? Send it to your cousin who lives in Kansas and say, does this make sense to you? Does this, is there anywhere that I need to be more clear? And I'm just gonna real quick, this is so serious. This is so serious because y'all, I see applications come in and I like to think that I touch a lot of art forms and genres. If I, open-minded Eva, am left with the question, what is this project? Then that is a failure in the application. What is your project? Is it a panel? Is it a multimedia presentation? Even that, which with its wide variety of what it could be, is clearer than it's a creative offering with a non-prescriptive presentation. Like, I do not know what that is, and I'm telling you a panel of 9 people, 7 people does not know what that is. So please be clear about what is your project. We're not looking for, it must be a traditional in the theater presentational. It can be a new thing. It just needs to be clear about what that new thing is. Okay, so I'm going to go back to share, but I really I want to emphasize that. Please make it clear what your program is, what your presentation is. I am a person who enjoys comedy, so I love laughing and joking about all things in life, but not in an application. And the reason why is it just doesn't land the same, if I'm really being honest. The panel is looking for professionalism here, and so this is the time to let that side of you sing. Be very clear who is involved, how many people are involved, where are you planning on presenting, what time of year is it happening, what month even is the best. If you know what month, then that's really good. Okay. So a lot of our, for example, a lot of our transgender and gender diverse folks, they like to present in November and March for the to commemorate their days of remembrance and visibility. So thinking about that as you're thinking about when in the year this would fit into your program, into your, you know, your annual programming. And then start early. Applications are open now. You can literally go to weho.org and type in on the search bar arts grants, and they are open today. You can go in there, you can look at the guidelines, you can look at the applications and get started. You can leave the application and come back to it multiple times. Budget is a big question. I'm having a budget workshop next week. It's also going to be recorded like this one and will be available at our YouTube site for folks who have more questions about the ins and outs of a budget. But just some general budget notes. Show multiple points of income. So if you are, so we had a question about doing film, right? So like if you're going to do a film and you want part of the funding to come from the city, but you're also going to get funding from the ticketed screening, and you're also going to get funding from Paramount Pictures, or you're also going to, you know, individual donors, make sure to include all that information. This is not your annual budget. This is your project specific budget. Okay. Panels generally like to see a balanced budget. So if your income is like, I'm going to make 50 grand off this project and I'm asking for $5,000 from the city, that amount of unmatch makes the panel think, you know what, I'm not sure this person is serious. I'm not sure this person knows exactly what they're talking about. Similarly, if your income is like, I'm planning on making $5, but I really need the city to give me 10,000, that also is a red flag. The panel generally will look at something with such a you know, exaggerated deficiency and say, this project may not happen because this person does not have multiple funds of income outside of this grant. Let's talk about in-kind. So in-kind is a gift of goods or services. And typically this could be, you know, you are going to get that rehearsal space for free. You know, your friend is going to let you use their theater or their backyard. Or maybe in terms of goods, someone's going to gift you chairs, you know, to borrow for audience for your outdoor presentation. Or maybe someone is going to donate, you know, some Smart and Final, you know, goods for refreshments. That is what in-kind means. And that money can go into your budget and show that additional income. So even though someone may not be able or comfortable to give you actual cash dollars, they might be able to provide this other thing. And we want to make sure that you're reflecting that and showing that you have this other support, even if it's not in dollars, but it's in goods and services. I will also add a comment that sometimes panels, if they see that the lighting designer is in kind, that can be a little yellow flag. The panels here in West Hollywood, generally speaking, now I've been in this position for about 7 years, they like to see human beings being paid. So I just want to mention that. I don't think the city of West Hollywood is alone in that, but I just want to comment to you that panels generally will note if a person is not being paid on the project. And that leads into this final bullet point. How does your budget show your values? So there have been times in applications where I've seen for example, this is an exaggeration, but the curator might receive 75% of the grant request. And then the participating artist in the exhibit would get $25 for participating. That the panels generally will say, oh, interesting. So that's, you know, there's a feeling about that in terms of equity, in terms of, I would say just the visibility of the display of value there is something that is highlighted to the panel, and it becomes very clear in the budget. And so I would just say, think about in your budget how your values are shown and how the money is going to be spent. Okay, and before I jump into the timeline, we're kind of out of the little like tips and tricks section here. I'm going to stop share. and see if there are any questions or any other comments about these tips and tricks. Probably things you all know. Oh, Elodie.
Hi. So I was wondering if you could maybe further explain the point in regards to income and with whether the organizer has a high income or low income. Is that in regards to the budget of like paying themselves through the grant, or is that in regards to their outcome outside of it? And are there limitations, do you think, to someone with a lower income versus a higher income?
Great question. A lot of applicants wonder, can I show that I'm going to pay myself? And yes, yeah, so for example, an applicant in my example of an applicant as a curator. So the applicant is applying to do a visual art exhibit, and they're going to bring in 15 artists to show their work at a gallery here in West Hollywood. And in their budget, they've like got the rent for the gallery, they've got the refreshments that are maybe in kind, then they have the pay for the artist to be involved. Each artist is going to get $300, and they themselves is going to get $1,000. So I have seen that before, and it is not anything that is frowned upon at all. It's just when that if the discrepancy was so high between an artist getting a $75 stipend and the curator getting a $5,000 fee. That's where the panel says, wait a minute, that doesn't feel equitable. But applicants historically have requested funding to be paid for their time and work. Yes, I hope that's clear. Is there a limit? No. The limit is how your budget ends up playing out with the puzzle pieces of, suppose you're applying for the community arts grant category. So the maximum you're going to ask for is $6,000. Then you're kind of working backwards from that. Okay, my rent for the space is going to be this. I'm going to need lighting elements. It's going to be that. I'm going to, maybe I'll have a sound display. I'm going to offset that by this income and this income. And I'm also going to get paid as a line item.
Got it. And do you think that, because you also mentioned like, oh, if maybe their project is getting funded by other things, do you see that grants that maybe have alternative funding are more successful, or do you think a grant can stand on its own with just I'm applying for the community if it's just the $6,000?
It's a good question. And to be honest with you, I don't have good data to share on which applications are successful with that metric in mind of when the budget shows just the grant funding as the income and nothing else. But I know for sure that applicants have been successful with a request for grant funding and nothing else. And I also know for sure that applicants have been successful with a more multitude of income displayed in their budget. Sorry, the lights go on and off in here. There we go. It's like my midday exercise. So what the panel asks historically is, can this project occur and be successful if we don't fund it? So it's not really clear. And then, by the way, every year the panel is different. And so I'm only speaking from previous panels, but I don't know what this next panel will respond to. So I hope that's kind of clear as mud. Yeah. Okay, going to the chat here. Let's see. Online service custom poems for any occasion and showing artwork at a gallery. Okay, so what you would want to think about is the showing of the works in a gallery. And you would want to do the research of, okay, where will I show where will I show this work? Where will I have this experience? Maybe there's some poetry making experience for the audience that you're inviting, So where does it happen? What does the experience kind of include? So I would offer that building out that experience would be a option of eligibility for potentially the community arts category, because it sounds like you're an individual, and so that takes you out of the art project. Unless you are part of the TGI plus community, maybe you are, that could be a good option. Otherwise, the community arts is going to be the category I would direct you to, and then invite you to sort of explore what is that in-person component, and then how does it relate to this online version. And so maybe there's a nice partnership in there for your application. So I think that's where I would kind of direct you. Are the panels announced or are they anonymous? The panels are anonymous until after scoring. So once the we can't have y'all, you know, contacting them and looking up where they are, dropping off cakes and, you know, flowers. So once the city council gets the scores and associated funding and they approve or have comment or anything like that, after that process is completed, the names of the panelists are included in that staff report.
How do you guys choose your panelists?
We have a roster of about 110 people that is approved through the commission. And so the roster for panelists is open every year, starting in the spring, usually around April. And people can apply to be a panelist. You just need to have 3 years onward of experience in the arts and live in Los Angeles County. And you can apply. And then once the commission approves you on the roster, so that just happened. Actually, they approve our roster in May, so that'll be next week. Then I have that roster to select the panelists from, and that's how I use that very, you know, healthy roster to draw out lots of diversity.
So if you're a panelist, you can't apply for a grant at a certain point
That's right. So if you're a panelist, you cannot apply for a grant in a category you are reviewing. So we have 2 panels. One panel will review the WeHo Artist Grant and the Filmmakers Grant, and one panel will review Arts Project, Community Arts, and the TGI Plus Grant. So 2 panels, and if you are an applicant, you may not be on a panel of the category you are applying for. Okay, yes. So applications are public information, but you have to submit a public records request to get any of that application information, and we redact it. So we redact all contact information of the application, if ever, which has never happened in my time here. If ever the public is asking for applications, then we redact contact information. So you only have to live in West Hollywood for the West Hollywood grant. That's the West Hollywood Artist Grant requires the individual to live currently in the city of West Hollywood. Ideally, you have some history in the city of West Hollywood. But every other category, you only need to live in LA County. I know we're a little bit over time. So let me really quick, I'm going to go back to the timeline and talk this through with you. So right now, applications are open. The applications close on July 1st. Once they're closed, they don't reopen again. There is no extension, there is no delay. I close the grants and I get to work. I review for eligibility and then I package the grants to be handed off to the panel. The panel reviews the applications and gets me their initial scores back in August. The panels then meet with me. We all get together in person. We review all the applications, review any questions, any discrepancies, and agree on a final score. The final score is associated with funding and goes to the commission. The commission then reviews, has comments, questions, things like that. Ultimately, a staff report is created and goes to City Council to approve the funding. The funding is then given over a lengthy period of time to grantees. This is the part where I love to say, I mean, it's like a love-hate relationship. I love that we fund art, and yet we are a government organization, which means there's some red tape. You know, you've got to fill out the application. You have to get insurance. So the good news is you get a grant, and the bad news is you get a grant. So that's when we have our orientation and we talk you through all the steps that happen next. A great way to stay in touch with the City of West Hollywood is on social media, as well as our newsletter, which you can find at weho.org/arts. You can also just type in arts newsletter if the search bar comes up, and stay connected with us there. We only send out a once-a-month email newsletter, but that's where you find all the grantee programming. So every month we gather the grantees' presentation information along with whatever the arts division is doing, which by the way is always something, you know, summer sounds, winter sounds, free theater in the park, things like this, workshops, boot camps, all kinds of stuff. This is a great way to be in community here in West Hollywood, and also to build your network, because there are people who in our 2.5 square mile city, people are inevitably connected to other cities in the region, and that's a great way to stay in community. Here I am, my contact information, and if you have any questions, please do reach out. And I will just say time is of the essence. So I have a harder time responding to emails on like June 30th. So please don't wait until the last minute. Give me the grace, and give yourself the grace, most importantly, of the time, because you might get to a point in the application where you just need to take a nap or you just need to take a walk. So just, you know, pace yourself and give yourself that time so that, you know, it doesn't, especially for those of you who have never applied for a grant before, let yourself be patient and take your time. Okay, any other questions here? Any tips on getting insurance? I don't know what surety bonds are, but in terms of insurance, if you have a fiscal sponsor, that's a great resource to get insurance. If you are, I wouldn't worry necessarily about insurance until you're going through the grant process. At that point, we'll be able to talk to you about, well, what kind of presentation are you doing? How many people will be in attendance? And that will help us figure out the right pathway for insurance. Any advice on a writer applying for the WeHo Artist Grant? So I think we have had authors and literary artists be awarded the WeHo Artist Grant. And what seems to have been successful for them is to provide work samples of previous work. The other thing that they have done is to provide the very detailed outline of what they're currently planning on doing, so that the panel can see a direct line between where we are today with not the funding and where we will arrive with the funding. So for example, this is maybe a challenge that some artists have, is that, well, I'm really the only one involved in this project. And so what am I applying for this funding for? Because the reality is you cannot show that we're paying your rent, right? These are taxpayer dollars. So we cannot pay your rent or buy your dinner. We can utilize this funding for an editor, for a graphic designer for the cover of your book, for support for interviews that might happen in San Francisco. So thinking about how can this funding really bring vitality to my project in a very specific way that will help the city of West Hollywood be reflected in this project. And that's especially for that West Hollywood Artist Grant. We, the city, wants to see ourselves in you, the artist we're investing in, and your work. Okay, I hope I'm answering a lot of these questions here. Anybody else have a question before we wrap it up? Am I still sharing? No, I'm not sharing. Okay, great. Okay, final note, I welcome all of your applications. I cannot wait to see them. I welcome all of your questions. There is no stupid question. There is no question too small. This is the time to reach out to your community and say, I really think I want to do this project. What do you think? How would you write it? How would you do it? Start thinking about your marketing. Take a look at the application. Take your time and reach out to me if you have any questions. But I thank you all for being here. If you want to dive deep into budget stuff, we'll do that next Wednesday at 1 o'clock right here on a Zoom. And if you didn't RSVP for that one, I would welcome you to RSVP just in case, just like today, I need to change the Zoom link for some reason. So make sure you RSVP if you'd like to attend that one specifically. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Good luck and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.